So, welcome to today's video. We are taking a look at all my green and black and gray watercolor tubes. And as always, we will be starting with the ones I have chosen to use up first. And those are the non-light fast and those are the light fast ones. So we will be starting with the non-light fast ones. And the first color I have is Prussian green from Daniel Smith. That's a very beautiful dark green. I personally wouldn't buy this again. This is also one of the tubes, like a lot of tubes, I've bought when I had no clue about pigments and light fastness. And I personally love Prussian blue. I know it is a non-light fast color, but I use it only when light fastness isn't important, like in sketchbooks. And this Prussian green is basically just a mix between your Prussian blue PB27 and here on yellow they've chosen PY97. So if you have a Prussian blue, mix it just with any yellow and you can get a nice dark green. That is just not a tube which I seem to have necessarily, and as I use it really not a lot, I rarely use the color, so yeah, definitely wouldn't buy this one again. Then I have a color I absolutely love. This is from Rosa Gallery, brand from the Ukraine. I can highly recommend because they are so good and so damn affordable. Here in Germany, they are probably one of the brands which are most affordable. So yeah, I always this is always the brand I say. For example, when I buy from Amazon Germany a watercolor set with pens, I would buy the Winsor Newton Cotman with 18 half pens for around 45 euros. And this is a student grade set. And I can buy a set from Rosa Gallery for, I think it is 21 full pens. So we have more than double the amount of watercolor in artist grade from Rosa Gallery for around 35 to 39 euros. So I come cheaper buying artist grade watercolors than I would buy a student grade. So yeah, that's always the reason why I say when people ask me when starting out, you don't need necessarily to say, oh, I'm just starting out, I don't buy the artist grade because it's too expensive. Sometimes artist grade is cheaper than the student grade. So yeah, that's definitely an awesome brand and I really love the colors from them. This one is just called Green and this is a PG8. PG8 is unfortunately not light fast, but it is an absolute stunning sap green like color and it is a single pigment color. And there are not many brands offering the color. Rosa Gallery does, and so does Shinhan PwC and White Knights. I think those are, I'm not sure, maybe Roman Schmoll also offers the color, but I'm not sure about that. The first three I know definitely because I have from all three the color. I really love to work with this one. I think I once read that PG8 is the original Hooker's green, but I'm not completely sure about that. So yeah, if you have more information about that, please let me know. I haven't dove, not dove. Oh, my brain doesn't work. I didn't started researching the pigment. massively because I haven't done a video about it so far, but there definitely will come a video about it because I love the pigment. Okay, so that's the green. Then I have two colors from the brand Camel or Kukyu Camlin. That's a brand from India, which has a lot of very, very good colors, but a lot of those are sadly not light fast. The quality, how the colors perform, I like really much, but yeah, the light fastness is definitely a big problem, especially because there are some color groups like red and pinks, which they offer not at least one light fast version. I mean, if you would at least have PV19 or something similar, which is light fast, you could do your warmer reds and stuff with this color. But yeah, they don't offer a light fast red, for example. And in some other areas like blue, there are light fast pigments used. But I think as a brand, you should at least offer one light fast red, yellow, and blue so that people can actually work with the colors. If permanency is something that is important. So sadly, that is something they don't have. So the first is the Viridian Hue. That is something I gave them a big plus point. They are definitely very honest that this is a hue. Not every brand is honest with that, especially in student grade. The colors often also only are called Viridian. Most of the time it is a single pigment PG7. Here we have sadly a mix. It does look from the color just like a plain PG7, so I had it for a long time in my Lightfast user box because I thought it is a single pigment PG7, but it contains PY3, and this is a pigment I've mentioned that in my other videos a lot, which can be light fast, but also can be very unlight fast. And most times, if you have cheaper brands like this watercolor, they use the non-light fast versions. So that is a pigment I have. Same goes for the PY83 we have in this green. I always handle it as non-light fast, only when I know that the brand's version is tested individually by some artists and are light fast, then there's not. And I have found an Indian artist having done light fastness tests on the Camlin watercolors. If I remember, I will put a link in the description box below, and you can see that the greens, they don't fade a lot, but they fade a little bit. So yeah. Then we have a PB15 column 1. It's a phthalo blue and a phthalo green. And this here is a sap green. And I must say, a lot of sap greens I don't like. For example, the one from Schminke looks for me more like a May green, not like a sap green. I have a very special color shade in my mind when it comes to sap greens. My favorite one is the one from Daniel Smith. And for me, a sap green must be something similar, completely transparent, natural looking green. And this one is super beautiful, and I absolutely love it. I'm so sad that it is just not light fast. It's a PY83 PG7 mixture. So yeah, you can see it is a 20 milliliter tube. I already used up a lot of it. So yeah, I do love the color, but sadly it isn't light fast. Then coming to the light fast colors. The first one is the Cobalt Green from Shinhan PWC, and there we come again to the problem that it is not a cobalt green hue written on it, because this is not a genuine cobalt pigment. It is a mixture, and it doesn't imitate it very good, because it looks like a green-white mixture. I know that this special kind of shade of green is in traditional Asian art very old color and has a very deep standing with it. You will find a color like that in all sets, like, for example, bigger sets from Gansai Tambi paints, or the Chinese version, the Gukai paints, and other traditional painting methods. You will find a green like that. It often has the name cobalt green, sometimes it has the name malachite, but yeah, I know it is a very traditional color, but I would prefer it if it is at least written down as cobalt green hue, just because when people don't know anything about pigments or just starting out, then the problem is you think you have a genuine cobalt color, and you have not. And that is something I don't like, when brands do not offer the word hue in their hues. So the mixture here is a PY53 and a PG7. I know there is not mentioned white on it. I'm not quite sure, I haven't looked it up. Either the PY53 is a very opaque color, some yellows are very opaque, and could give these white image, or they have used PW5, sorry, which is a white pigment, but it is also used a lot for fillers, especially, for example, in student grade or in cheaper brands. And the thing is that sometimes you have colors where you know, oh, it looks exactly like it is mixed with the white, but it isn't listed as a white. The problem is, if they use the PW5 as a filler, they don't have to list it on the pigment list, because it is used as a filler, so they don't have to list it. And sometimes especially I've seen that done in student grade paints. For example, for the cerulean blues, there you only have standing PB15, but you see it looks like a PB15 white mix, but I don't list the white. That's always the point then, that they have used it as a filler officially, and they didn't have to list it. And then it looks better, because you look at it before you test it and think, oh, it is a single pigment PB15, but it in reality isn't. It isn't really a single pigment version, and it is mixed with the white. So yeah, just to be aware of. So the next color is the Winsor and Newton Professional Winsor Green yellow shade. I don't know why Winsor and Newton tend to do, especially with the phalos, call them Winsor Green, Winsor Blue, don't know. Basically, it is just a peachy 36 phthalo green yellow shade. You can see I've used it up a lot. I must say I use a lot of PG7, the blue shade phthalo green, because I think it is a highly underestimated color. I know all people always say, oh, it looks so artificial and you can't use this as a green, but this is a super, super great mixing base. Use your PG7, for example, with a burnt sienna or a burnt umber or an orange like a PO48, and you get very natural, beautiful looking greens. So yeah, The PG36 can of course used as could be similar, but as it is a lot lighter and in Germany we would say grell, very glowy, neon-likeish. It is a very bright color. That would be probably the best word for in English. It is harder to use it as a mixing base because you would have to dampen it down a lot, and that's one of the reasons I don't use it a lot. I know the tube is nearly empty, but it is also one of my first watercolor tubes, so it is a very old color, and it is only a 5 milliliter color. Yeah, I rarely use PG36, so don't know if I would buy one again, to be honest. So then I have the Chromium Oxide Green Brilliant, and I don't know why they call it Chromium Oxide Green, because it is not a PG17 in it. It is a mixture. That's the reason why I wouldn't buy it again, because it is a mixture between PG18 Viridian and PG7, which is your standard phthalo green. So you have a color which looks like a phthalo green with a subtle hint of granulation from the PG18. Also, because of the PG18, the color is super expensive. As you can see, the color is many years old, and I've rarely used it. I think I only done it once in a pan set. So yeah, we'll try to use it up as a PG7 version, a very expensive one, but yeah. I rather buy the pigments as a single pigment version, a PG18 and a PG7. So then we have some cobalt, some genuine cobalt greens. First is the Cobalt Green Pale from Daniel Smith, and this is probably the worst Daniel Smith color there is, the absolute worst. And after mine did look so damn badly, I've looked it up in the internet on YouTube and find that a lot of people had the problem with this special color. So it is not just a problem from my tube, it is just a problem in general. I don't know what Daniel Smith has done with this color that it is so bad, because the color seems to be 98% binder and maybe 2% pigment. You can search for the pigment particles on your page. It mostly looks dark brownish, more from the binder, and with some spots of green. It is a terrible color, really. I hate to say it because I absolutely love Daniel Smith watercolors, but this color is terrible. I highly recommend to never ever buy this color because yeah, you will be very disappointed in this. It is a PG19, so it is not a pigment that is offered from a lot of brands, but there are brands out there doing a PG19 cobalt green. So if you say you're a pigment collector like me and you want to have a PG19, I recommend either buying the Schminke version, which is more like a green like this, a lighter green, or you could buy the Michael Harding version, which looks like a deep dark green, like from needle trees, for example. There are definitely beautiful versions of the pigment out there. It is not that the pigment is just not usable in watercolors. It is just that whatever they've done here, I don't know. So yeah, don't ever buy the color. Or if you have the color already, I would love to hear if you also have problems like that. You can see how mine looks in the Cobalt Green video. I will put a link in the description box below. There you will also see all the other Cobalt Greens, for example, the other PG19s as well. You can see how they look. Maybe it helps you to decide which Cobalt Greens to buy. And of course, you also have some information about the pigments and the history of the pigments as always. Okay, so yeah, don't recommend this color. Then the last two are from a German brand, Lucas Aquarell 1862. The first one is the Cobalt Green. It is PG50. That's a cobalt green pigment which can make greens like this one, or also turquoises. And this is a lighter green. The big plus with the Lucas colors are they have this big chunky 24 milliliter tubes. I think they are really adorable. They are also on the cheaper side, so it is a good way to buy more expensive pigments like cobalt pigments. And then, this is something from the name itself, I absolutely don't understand why they have named it Verona Green Earth. Because green earth is, like the name says, it's an earth pigment. It's a PG23. It has its own pigment. Verona green earth would mean that it comes from the area of Verona in Italy. You can also buy green earth pigment from other areas in the world. I, for example, have a really dark version because the pigment is normally rather lightly, from a handmade artisan, and it is from Bohemia, which is an area which belonged in the past to Germany. So yeah, don't know, because it's a cobalt color. It is not a green earth pigment. It is definitely not a green earth pigment from Verona, and it doesn't look at all like green earth, especially not like a Verona green earth, which is a super, super light color normally. So this is a PG26, which also make beautiful dark turquoise, green turquoise colors. It is a stunningly beautiful color. I like this one very much, but like I said, the name is very irritating, and I don't like that the brand used this name for it, because it is rather confusing, especially for people who haven't gotten to the point that they have looked up pigments and stuff like that, or just starting out. If you're buying a color like that from a brand like Lucas, when you're starting out, then you think all Verona Green Earth looks similar to this, and then you buy it maybe from another brand because your tube is empty and you think, oh, this brand is on sale, I buy it from then you get a completely different color and you are highly disappointed. Yeah, that's reasons why I don't like when brands do something like that. Okay, so then we are coming to the big box of the greens, and I will put it out, sort it a little bit by brand, and then I will be back in a second. So now we are back. We are having colors from the brands Renaissance Intense, Shinhan PWC, Core, Daniel Smith, White Knights, Mijello Mission Gold, Holbein, Supervision, Sennelier, Phoenix, Schminke, Horadam, Rosa Gallery, M. Graham, Winsor Newton Professional, My Mary Blue, and Michael Hardy. So I start with the middle row. We are starting with the one from Supervision. This is from their Primatech kind of line, and this is called Malachite. and it contains malachite, but I don't know how high the percentage is in here. So yeah, malachite is a very toxic mineral, so this color is definitely toxic as well. Just to be aware of, if you are having a genuine malachite or a color which contains at least a part genuine malachite, be aware it is toxic. Yeah, beautiful color, but also very expensive. Then this was from a little tube set. I think there were 10 tubes in it. And this is from Sennelier. It was a travel set. The first one is Phthalo Green Light. It is a mix between PG7 and PY 153. I'm nowadays not really much interested in mixtures. There are, of course, some mixture I really love and I tend to use a lot, and therefore I have no problems to say I buy a tube of it again because I use it a lot. But most of the times I prefer to have single pigment colors in my sets. So these are colors I definitely wouldn't buy individual tubes anymore. Same is with this one here, which is called Forest Green in English. This is a mix between PG7 and PY42. PY42 is a synthetic version of the yellow iron oxide, PG7 here phthalo green, and PPK7, I think it is lamp black. Then from another set. That's most of the small tubes I have are from sets. Holbein Artist Watercolor. The first one is called Viridian Hue, and here we have a plus for the hue. It is just a PG7, single pigment PG7. And then we have the permanent green number 2. And it is a mix between PY74, PY53 and PG7. So yeah, that's definitely a color I wouldn't buy again. But yeah, I can always use PG7s. So then from another set, and this set contained really a lot of greens. This is Yellow Mission Gold. Yeah, like I said, they had a lot of greens in it. So the first one is their Hooker's Green version. It is PG36, that is our phthalo green yellow shade. PBR25, so we have a brown pigment in it, and PY 150. If you're mixing a phthalo green with a brown, of course, I use mostly burnt sienna and burnt umber because those are the ones I always have in every palette normally. And they are one of my favorite browns, but you could also, of course, use like here a PBR25 or other browns. And especially I think with the PG36, you could also use really dark browns like Van Dyke brown or sepia or something like that to get it darker if you want to have a darker green. So then their version of sap green. Oh, and the PY 150 in it, of course, is Nicolaise yellow. This is also something we have in here, PG36 and PY 150. And that is something, because it is just the yellow and the peachy 36, which is already very bright in color. You have a very light and bright green, which is a beautiful green, but for me personally it isn't a sap green. So yeah, nice green, but it would be too glowy and too bright for me to be a sap green. I prefer mine to be more leaf green, like, yeah, like most of the grass or the leaves from trees or bushes is that is for me is more like a sap green. Then they have a Van Dyke green, which is highly unusual. Van Dyke brown is something you see a lot, but not Van Dyke green. It is just a mix between PG7 and PBR25, so I wouldn't buy it as a color, because you can easily mix it yourself. Take any kind of similar looking brown and your PG7, but it is definitely a nice color. Then we have yellowish green, no, greenish yellow, sorry. And this is a mixture between PY 150, nickel laser yellow, PG 36 and PY 65. And you can see in this sticker that it is more like a very light green, greenish color. Those are, yeah, I optically I think they are nice, those kind of colors, but I never use those normally. So I have some from these kind of yellow here as well, but yeah, I barely use them, so wouldn't buy that again. Similar is to this yellow green, these kind of greens is the same for me. This is a PG 36 and PY3 mix, so there we have definitely again a light fastness problem. I wouldn't oh boy, I have to look this one up because I don't know how to describe it otherwise. Rely. So sorry, I did miss the word. I wouldn't rely on the light fastness rating, because the PY3 is one of those pigments that is often not light fast. So yeah, be careful with that one. Then we have Viridian, which is not a genuine Viridian, and we have here missing the hue again. It is just a PG7. That I mean, I like PG7, but I don't like that they are offering it as a Viridian and not as a Viridian hue. Then we have olive green, and that is well, 4 pigment mix. PG 36 phthalo green yellow shade, PY 150 nickel azo yellow. Then we have the PBR 25 again, and a red, a PR 112. So a lot of pigments. Yeah, my favorite version to mix my olive green is PG7 and burnt sienna, or burnt umber if you want to have a darker version. So of course I will someday use those tubes up, but yeah, definitely wouldn't buy it, because that is something very easily mixed yourself. Of course the shade would be different, but yeah. Then I surprisingly only have 3 tubes of White Nights watercolors. We have first is the emerald green, and it is a PG7 again. So emerald green is another word for viridian, and therefore I don't like it when it is used as a PG7. For example, in German, viridian is always called Smaragdgrün, which is the German word for emerald green. So I guess that in English per se it is not as problematic because it isn't called viridian, but as viridian is always called the German word for emerald green on the German part of tubes, that is for me. So yeah. I know also that in some other languages, viridian, we can could take a look at, is it? No. Here. There. That is a genuine viridian from Schminke. Viridian, and you see it is Smaragdgrün. And we have also here in French, and I think this one is Spanish, and ich weiß nicht, I don't know if this is Italian or so, but it is all called emerald green in their languages. It is just called viridian in English, so you hopefully get the point that emerald green is even if it is not the problematic word maybe in English, but it is a problematic wording or naming in most of the other languages. So yeah, it is a PG7, but the naming with the emerald without a hue is a little bit problematic for me, at least. Then we have the green light, and this is PG36, so phthalo green yellow shade. And then we have the green, and you remember I've told you that the Rosa Gallery green, the PG8, is also offered by White Nights, and they also call it just green, and it is also a PG8. So I think we will do core next because it's only one tube. I have a phthalo green blue shade, your standard PG7, so absolutely nothing special. Then let's start with, because it's only one tube again, Cobalt Green Deep from Michael Harding. I've mentioned PG19 before. There it is. It is PG19. This is the very, this is not very realistic. It is a super dark, more like this kind of green, very darkish, kind of super strongly granulating green. Absolutely stunning color. Highly can recommend it. It's very beautiful. Then I have two colors from My Merry Blue. The first is Cobalt Green Light, and this is PG50. And then we have a Cobalt Green, which is a darker green if you look at the colors, and this is a PG26. So very, very beautiful, both of them. You will see a lot of cobalt greens because, yeah, like I said, I love cobalts. Those are one of my absolute favorite pigment families. And always when I like pigments or pigment families a lot. You will see that I have it from a lot of brands. Like you see, I have a lot of ultramarine blues, for example, a lot of quinacridons, a lot of cobalts, because those are colors I really, really love. So therefore, not surprisingly, from Winsor Newton to Professional, I also have the Cobalt Green Deep. And where do we have it? It is also a PG26. Here, you can see it here. And then, and that is rather surprisingly, because it is a color used a lot by people, Perylene Green. This is my only tube of Perylene Green, and it is a very old tube. It is also one of my first watercolor tubes, and you see there is not a lot used up when you think that this tube is so many years old. Because I didn't understand the hype around the color. Like I said, it's set in my sets most of the time untouched. So just in the last month, I really started to use the color. So thinking of getting maybe the color from some other brands as well. It is funny that it is a black pigment. It is PBK 31. So officially it is a black pigment, but it is a very, very dark green. It is a very beautiful color in its own, but it is also a very beautiful color for mixing if you want to darken your colors. And it is often also used as a shadow color for many people. So yeah, it is definitely a good color to have in your collection, I think. Also, even when I personally am not as used to the color or not as good using the color, because I just really started to use it in the last couple of months. So, oh, we have one tube left from Rosa Gallery, which is also called Emerald Green, and therefore I have the same problem here. It's also a PG7 as I had with the White Nights tube. Then Engram, Viridian, Genuine Viridian, PG18. This is definitely a absolutely must-have color for me. Doesn't matter the brand per se. The very plus point on Engram is that Engram uses a lot of honey in their colors. Therefore, it has the unfortunately big negative point that it never really hardens. It is not very good for travel sets. This is more a brand to use when you are at home, just because if you are putting it in a set and the set starts to move in your bags or your luggage in the airplane or something like that, the colors will flow all over the place. So definitely not a brand to use somewhere else, just more like a home brand. But they are doing absolutely beautiful colors, and the very big plus on the Viridian is why I've bought it in the first place, is because they use that much honey in their colors. It is much easier to rewet, and Viridian is one of 3 pigments, or better said 4 pigments, but 3 colors, which are very hard to rewet if you don't having glycerin or honey in the color. So the others would be Potter's Pink PR 233, and the other 2 pigments, but only 1 color, is the Cobalt Violet, because there are 2 Cobalt Violet pigments, PV14 and PV49. And for me personally, I realized after a while I don't really care that the colors are harder to revert from some brands because they don't using honey or glycerin. I just put some drops of water on it, let it rest for a while, and then use it. But when you say, okay, M-gram is really expensive, like for me in Germany, and you're having, for example, from another brand, the Viridian, which don't uses any honey, just when you're putting it in your pan, you can put a little bit of honey, or if you're vegan, then put a little bit of glycerin in it, mix it well before it dries, and then let it dry. And then you have the same effect as a brand like M-gram, for example, which reverts a lot easier. I personally, I don't do this with my other brands, like I said, because I don't have the problem to say I wait a moment. If I know I want to color an area in a Viridian, for example, then I will put some drops of water in it, will let it rest, and in the meantime just color some other area. So, but if you are a person who says it must work immediately when I want to use it, then this would be either by a brand using a lot of honey or glycerin, or just putting it in yourself. Problem solved. The other M-gram color I have, of course, is Cobalt green, surprisingly. And this is a PG50 version. So, and then, also surprisingly, I have two Schminke colors. And the first is Viridian, genuine Viridian PG18. And surprisingly, Cobalt green. And this is a Cobalt green pure. This is the PG19 version, the other one, which is a lighter green than the Michael Harding one. So depending on which green you prefer for a PG19, you can buy either, or in this case you could buy both brands because it are completely different colors. Like I said, if you want to see how they are looking, just watch my Cobalt green video, which I will definitely put a link in the description box. Yeah, Schminke Horadam is always an excellent choice. I know that they can be outside of Germany very expensive. Like for me, the Daniel Smith colors are very expensive in Germany. So yeah, I personally can only say that for me, I always recommend buying the brands which are the easiest available and affordable in your area. There are a lot of really good artist grade paints. You don't have to buy, for example, the color from Schminke or from Daniel Smith or from Winsor Newton. If those are super expensive where you live, then buy just some other brand. There are so many brands out there which doing stunningly beautiful and quality-wise high quality paints. So yeah, there isn't the need. It has to be that brand or that brand. So I have 4 colors from Phoenix. Those are not artist grade, even if it labels as artist here. It is a good upper class student grade paint, I would say. Some people assume that they are just white labeled Winsor Newton Cotman paints. I don't know that for sure because I haven't used the Cotmans in tubes, and I heard that the tube version and the pan versions are very different to each other, but it is definitely Damn it, I have to look the word up. Noticeable that the color names and the pigments they've chosen are completely identical in this line and in the Cotman line. So I've mentioned that in my other watercolor collection videos so far. Yeah, I haven't used those four, it seems. They are untouched so far. This is Viridian Hue. Yay for the hue. It is a PG7. And then we have the olive green, which is PBK7 PB15 mix. So lamp black and phthalo green, phthalo blue, sorry. I've bought this because in a German shop they were so damn cheap because they were on sale. I think I've bought them for 80 cents or €1, something like that per tube. Those are 8 milliliters, and yeah, that's why I bought every color they had available, because they were so utterly cheap. And like I said, I had 1 or 2 tubes already before I bought them all, or at least all I could get, because some colors already were sold out when they have done this big sale. I knew that it is a good quality, good student grade quality. So then we have Permanent Green Dark, which is a mixture between PW6 or white, PB15 phthalo blue, and PY3. So PY3, again, be aware of the light fastness problem here. And then we have Sap Green, which is a PY139, PG36, and PR101. PR101 is your synthetic red iron oxide pigment you often see as a burnt sienna, for example, or as a red transparent oxide, or as a Indian red, English red, Venetian red, something like that. Okay, so then coming to Renaissance Intense. It's a company from Poland. In Germany they are super affordable because I've bought them also in the same sale. I've bought the Phoenix tubes, and I think they were around, I think the normal price is around €3 for a 15 milliliter tube, which is super affordable. So normally you have a price per milliliter for most artist grade paints, not for all, of course, and there are always something cheaper, and some are more expensive than others, depending also on the pigments used and stuff like that, of course, but normally we have around €1 per milliliter, and with €3 you are at 20 cents per milliliter, so it is super cheap in comparison to the standards. So this is just your basic phthalo green, PG7, yeah, PG7, nothing special. Then we have the chromium oxide green, which is one of the few single pigment green pigments we have in watercolor, PG17. It is a color which granulates, so it is nice as a mixing color if you are interested in mixing your own super granulating color separation mixes. It is a color I did hate a lot in the past because it is this muddy kind of green. It is a very opaque color as well, but I come to like it more in the last couple of months because I've seen it in some of the brands now offering also super granulating colors, that they use it as a mixing color, and I've never had it on my radar for doing so, and also started to use it in other mixtures. For example, mix it with a little bit of phthalo green or other colors, and therefore I start slowly to like it more. Definitely, it is a very cheap pigment, so it is definitely a color I would recommend having in your collection because, like I said, it is a single pigment green. We don't have a lot of single pigment green pigments, and it is a granulating one as well. And if cobalt pigments are something you say they are way too expensive for you, this would be a super cheap, affordable granulating green, because cobalts and viridian are one of the most expensive pigments you can buy when it comes to granulating greens. This would be your cheapest version. I think this is a series 1 in every brand. Of course, buying expensive pigments like cobalt pigments, and yes, I have of course the Renaissance Intense cobalt greens as well. If you say these pigments are super expensive and they are out of your league, 2 ways you can buy those for way cheaper is taking a cheaper brand like Renaissance Intense or Rosa Gallery, for example. I think Rosa Gallery also has a fixed price on their standard range colors, so they are costing all the same. I think it is around 3 euros for the 10 milliliter tube. So it doesn't matter if you buy an ultramarine blue or an cobalt blue because they're the same. Or like I said, those are even cheaper because you're getting 15 instead of 10 milliliters for around the same price. This is a way to get to the colors like that. Or of course you can buy from someone who has filled up a half pan or a quarter pan or a full pan from a tube and sell them either individually or in a set. This is also a way to get to expensive pigments on a cheaper scale, but with those filled up pans, if you buy it from Etsy or AliExpress, I highly recommend really taking a look at the reviews of people, so that you don't get to a person who fills up like I have seen it, and I've never, because I normally don't do it, I only have I think 2 of those filled up sets bought from AliExpress in the past. And I've seen on YouTube people who had the problem that, for example, for a Viridian, they had the half pan filled nearly completely with a PG7 phthalo green, and only the first layer was a PG18. So there are people selling expensive pigments, but most of the paint in it is something else. So be aware of that. So just buy from people you are really sure that they sell you the genuine pigment. Otherwise, like I said, buy brands like Renaissance Intense or Rosa Gallery or White Nights, for example, or Roman Schmal, which are on the cheaper side and producing high quality artist grade paints, or Shinhan PWC, Mugello Mission Gold, or in some areas of the world also Holbein watercolors. There are brands that are a lot cheaper than other brands, and you can get the expensive pigments for a cheaper price. So Cobalt Green Pale is the first of the 2 cobalt greens. It's a PG50. And then we have Cobalt Green Deep, which I think is also PG50. Yes, it's also PG50. So both of them are nice, but like I said, I'm an absolute cobalt lover, so there are not many cobalt colors I don't like. I think the only cobalt color I really don't like is the Cobalt Green Pale from Daniel Smith. So yeah. Okay, Shinhan PWC. This is a brand from Korea, and in Germany those are start with I think €3 for a 15 milliliter tubes. I think between €3 to €6 it is in Germany, so they are very affordable. They have a lot of not light fast pigments in their collection, at least in the past. Mine are very old, I have to say. Don't know if they have changed some of the pigments, or maybe some colors are not produced anymore and I have some new colors, because I haven't bought tubes from the brand in a long while, but there's only one seller I know in Germany selling them, and if I rarely order from the shop at the moment because I try to not buy so many watercolors. Okay, Shinhan PWC. This is a green pale, called green pale. It is a PG7 PW6 mix. So this is definitely a color I wouldn't buy again, because I don't like those pastel colors a lot. There are only one or two pastel or better said white mixed colors I really like, so that is definitely a color I wouldn't buy anymore. Yeah, try to not to buy so much, because since I'm completely retired because of my health issues, of course the money is not so, I don't have so much money anymore, so I have to be a little bit careful. So I'm glad I have bought so much in the past, because yeah, I have a lot to use up, so I wouldn't need to buy a color for the rest of my life probably, but yeah, we all know how it is with art materials, you never can have enough. Shinhan olive green. It is a mixture with PY83 and PG8, so we have two pigments here which are not light fast. Definitely would be on my not buy again list, just because of the light fast issue, and also it is a mix. Green Deep, PY3, not light fast, PG7. Rather would prefer to have a PG7 single pigment in my set, so wouldn't buy this one again. Like I said, the Shinhans I've bought many years ago. They are all from a time where I had absolutely no clue about pigments, so you can see it a lot in the pigments, because a lot of the tubes are on my wouldn't buy again list. The Viridian, we have here the same problem again, that it is not called Viridian Hue, because it is not a genuine Viridian, it's a PG7 phthalo green. So as a phthalo green, yay, would always I always have PG7s, but yeah, negative point for not declaring it as a hue. Then we have the sap green, which is a PG8. I've mentioned that Shinhan PWC is one of the brands offering a PG8, and they have funnily two PG8s, because I think their Hooker's green, if I remember correctly, is also a PG8. Yes, so they are both PG8s. I would have to swatch them directly to each other to see if they are really different. Do they look different, or do they just look the same and they have labeled them just under two different names? So I'm not quite sure how different those are. But two versions of PG8 you could buy. And then the last one is the permanent green number 2. And this is also a PG7. So it is a lighter version, a lighter green. So I don't know if they just used filler in it to lighten it that much. This is a little bit suspicious with the single pigment, because we all know how dark a PG7 can look, and this is not definitely not how it would look all on its own. So it's a little bit fishy for me. So then Daniel Smith. Yes, they are super expensive in Germany, but it is one of my most liked brands. That's also the reason why you see a lot of Daniel Smith colors. Also because in the time I've bought most of my Daniel Smith tubes, there weren't any half pan you could buy. There didn't offer at the time half pan sets or the colors as a half pan to buy individually. So that is why I have a lot of Daniel Smith tubes in comparison to, for example, the Schminke Horadam, which is much cheaper in Germany. I only have 2 tubes, but I have a lot of Schminke Horadam watercolor sets with half pans. So of course, if I have the color as a half pan, I wouldn't buy a tube normally. So that is why I have a lot of more tubes from here, because I don't own any half pans or half pan set from Daniel Smith, just because when I've bought most of them, they didn't offer any of those. They came up many years later with their first half pan sets, at least in Germany. I don't know if they were available much earlier in the US, for example, but yeah, that's the reason. So starting on the upper row, Deep Sap Green. Deep Sap Green is a mix of Prussian Blue, not light fast, PY3, also not light fast, and PO48, which is a pigment sadly being discontinued 2 years ago. So this is a mixture. Whenever they ran out of PO48, that color will change. So it is one of your favorites, then stock up. But for me personally, it contains 2 not light fast pigments, so I would not buy that color again. Then your standard phthalo green blue shade. It's just a PG7, so basic color. Then a color I can highly recommend, which is absolutely stunning, is Cascade Green. This is one of the colors I say, yay, I definitely would buy the mix again. It is a mix of PB15 and PBR7. Of course, you could mix it again yourself as well, but you will need a very strongly granulating PBR7. I have tried to do it with not so much granulating, and you won't get the same results. You need a PBR7 which is very strongly granulating. So if you, for example, have their burnt sienna PBR, I think their burnt sienna is a PBR7 single pigment. This would be definitely a good version for doing this mix yourself. But it is a mix which is not so easily mixed, even if it's two pigments, because like I said, you need very strongly granulating PBR7, and the ratios is not so easy to find. So yeah, I'm often on the lazy mixing side, so I like to use this one. Super beautiful color. Same goes for Undersea Green, which is also a very beautiful color. This is also a mix of PB29 Ultramarine Blue, PO48 and PY150 Nickel Acer Yellow. PO48, like I said, is being discontinued since around 2 years. It is quinacridone burnt orange. So sadly, Undersea Green will also be one of the colors which will change in the future. So if it is a color you like a lot, either stock up on the PO48 or on the color itself. I know that Daniel Smith said 2022 that they've bought up the word stock of PO48 which was available, and that they have enough pigment to produce their colors for the next 10 to 15 years. So it is not something you have to do immediately, but be aware of that they someday in the future will run out of their PO48, and that a lot of colors from Daniel Smith are done with the PO48, and there are really a lot of colors in their range containing PO48. So definitely take a look at your colors. If you are having a lot of Daniel Smith colors in your favorites containing it, does it contain a PO48, then be aware of that it is sadly an ending pigment, and that when in the future we will run out of this very beautiful pigment, and then it will be very hard and probably very expensive to get to the pigment. So that's why I can highly recommend buying PO48, a tube or two from a brand which is offering it still. So yeah, then we have Hooker's Green. This is a PG36, PY3 and also PO48 mix, and a PY150. Ah, good to know. I like the Hooker's Green, but sadly I see it's a PY3 in it, so the light fastness is questionable. But yeah, it seems they also contain a PO48. Wasn't aware of that. Then we have the Permanent Green. That's one of the greens I wouldn't buy again, just because it is a very light green, and I tend to basically nearly never use them. PY3, also the light fastness questionable. I would have to look it up. I can recommend going, if you really want to know if those are light fast, on Kimberly Crick's blog. She has done the big swatch card with the 200 and plus colors, a 1 year light fastness test. So if they are light fast, they are okay to use. So PY3 and PG7, so that's also something. It's just so an easy mix, a yellow and a PG7. I wouldn't buy this again. Same goes for the phthalo green, phthalo yellow green, PG7 and PY3. Same mixture, just more yellow. And then here you can see it gets even lighter. Then the green gold. I love the green gold pigment, which is normally used in green gold, which is a PY129. You have seen these in my yellow collection. I have a lot of those. But this green gold from Daniel Smith doesn't contain PY 129. It's not a single pigment, it is a mixture between nickel azo yellow PY 150, PY3 again. Daniel Smith really likes their PY3. You find that in a lot of mixtures. And a PG 36. So it is a very light green. Yeah, you can see the color is many years old and I have barely touched it. Wouldn't buy it again. Then also the chromium green oxide was a lot of years the only chromium green oxide tube I had. And yeah, like I said, it's a PG17. Can highly recommend the pigment because as a single pigment and granulating and very affordable pigment, it is a good choice to have in your collection. Then the sap green. I think I've mentioned it in the past in the video that this is my favorite sap green. It looks so damn untouched, but the reason for that is I have one set from this filled up from Daniel Smith, and there was a sap green in it, and I've used it up before I've bought a sap green for myself. And definitely, like I said, my favorite sap green. It is also one containing PO48. It is a PO48 PY 150 PG7 mix. So we have PO48 quinacridone, burnt orange. I'm a little bit irritated that they call it quinacridone gold because the PO48 is called quinacridone burnt orange in their range when you buy it as a single tube. Then we have the nickel azo yellow, which is PY 150, and phthalo green PG7. Probably because the color originally contained a PO49 quinacridone gold and they didn't change the name. Huh, that's interesting. I know that the sap green originally contained PO49 in the past. I never had it, sadly, but yeah, probably that's just never, they've never changed it. So very, very stunning, beautiful sap green, and yeah, can highly recommend it. I've bought it when I heard that the pigment is being discontinued. I think the sap green is also in the one half pen set I have bought when they started selling half pen sets in this white plastic, the Jane Blundell set with the 15 colors been in it, and that's why I never bought the color until I heard that the PO48 was being discontinued. So untouched, but not untouched the color per se, because I have used the sap green a lot in the past. Then my very first ever Primatech color, Amazonite Genuine. I've bought it before I knew it is mostly a PG7 and only a little bit of Amazonite. It is not so different, in my opinion, to a PG7, therefore I would not buy this color again. It is just not special enough for me to say it is okay to buy to pay so much higher price for a color which containing mostly PG7. So yeah, I don't recommend Amazonite Genuine. Doesn't mean I hate all the Primatech colors, but Amazonite Genuine is definitely not a color I personally like. Zoisite Genuine is a color I've bought in a used bundle, and I've bought the colors. The seller sold it only all of them together. They were the Fuchsite Genuine was in it, the I think Bronzite Genuine, and some other of the glittery colors. I've bought it because of the glittery versions, and the Zoisite Genuine was in it, as well as I think Tiger's Eye Genuine. Both of them I wouldn't have bought probably individually, but I got it for 10 euros, and the seller only used it once, so it was full, and 10 euros is very cheap for the Primatex. It is, I would say, very similar to Perylene green in color. You have this very blackish, darkish kind of green, but this one is, I think it is granulating, if I remember correctly. I've barely used it so far. But as I just started using the PPK 31, the Perylene green, I think maybe I will find some more use also for the Zoisite Genuine, because yeah, it did sit all the years. I've filled up 1/2 pan, and I swatched it, and I think I never used it so far, but I hope to use it more in the future. Then two I've bought individually, and I've bought after I had them in this little used filled set. I've bought this little filled set just, oh gosh, I think before I ever bought any tube of Daniel Smith, it is so many years ago. I've just bought it as a testing set to test if Daniel Smith watercolors, I do like them or not, just because the tubes are so damn expensive in Germany. And I thought I buy this little set, which contains, I think, 36 colors in 1/8 pans, so very small pans, just to test the brand. And I did like it. And those two Primatech colors were in the set. No, this one was in the set, I think. Was it in the set? I'm not quite sure. But I've bought it after I used it there a lot. The Green Appetite Genuine is nearly empty in there, that I know. So I've used it there a lot, and I do like the color, and then I thought, okay, that is a color worth buying. That's why I've bought it. The Diopside Genuine, I haven't touched the tube so far. No, it wasn't in the set. It wasn't. But I've had it on my wish list for a very long time. That's why I've bought it. So yeah, haven't used it so far, but it is a beautiful color. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise. But the Green Appetite Genuine is definitely a color I can absolutely highly recommend. It is such a stunning color because it is a very sap green color, but with a brown granulation in it. You have a color separation effect between brown and green elements in this color. It is super stunning. Very, very stunning color. Can absolutely recommend this. And a little trick with the Primatech colors is that if the tube is too expensive, then buy the watercolor stick. A lot of the Primatex colors you can buy the watercolor crayon sticks. The watercolor crayon sticks has a fixed price. So, for example, if you would buy the tube for 20 euros or something like that, and the sticks are fixed, I think, at around 16 or 17 euros. At least it was in the past. I haven't bought the sticks in a long time, but you can buy the sticks from a lot of the Primatech colors as well, and they are cheaper. They are basically, they are not cheaper in the department that the milliliter price is cheaper, because this would be the cheaper because you get more in a 50 milliliter tube than you get in a stick. But if you are on a super tight budget and you say, this is a color I really, really want to have, and you can, for example, say, or every euro or every cent you're spending is important, then you can buy the stick for a cheaper price than you can buy a tube. So that's what I wanted to say. So that's a little trick. If every cent or every euro or dollar is really important. Not all of the Primatechs are available as those watercolor crayons, but a lot of them are. And you can cut those watercolor crayons very easily with a knife and just put in a half pen, for example. And yeah, I've done this in the past when there were some colors which were permanently sold out as a tube in Germany, and when I've ordered the watercolor crayon wasn't sold out, then I just bought the watercolor crayon. So yeah, little trick. Okay, so then we will now swatch to the black and grays. I will have to get the box, so be back in a second. So, okay, we are starting with the black and grays, of course, as always with the versions I want to use up first. And I have only one in the non-light fast box sitting. And this is the neutral black from Rosa Gallery. This is a mixture between PB 15 column 1 phthalo blue, PBK 7 lamp black, and the PR 177. And this is the pigment which is not light fast at all in watercolor. So that's my non-light fast black to use up first. Then I have 4 in my use up first light fast box. The first one is just a single pigment PBK 7 from Camel, the Indian brand. I don't know why they call it ivory black. Normally ivory black is made of PBK 9, which is made of crushed animal bones, burnt crushed animal bones. So that is always a color to be aware of if you're vegan. But funnily, the version from Camel is made with a PBK 7, which is, I think this is a lamp black. Traditionally, it was a pigment made from the soot rests from oil lanterns. So that's why it is called lamp black. I think the PBK 7 is a lamp black. So I'm not so with the PBK 6, 7, which is the charcoal, the lamp black, but I think it is it. So yeah, funny choice, very, very unusual for an ivory black. So then I have 3 colors from Renaissance Intense. The first is neutral gray, which is more like a lighter gray color. It is made from PB60. That is an inland 3 in blue, PO62 and PR 254. So yeah, I'm honestly, I would have to look up the PO62 because I'm not so good with the orange pigments, because orange is a color I not use a lot. I have 1, 2. Yeah, it is a light fast pigment. Okay, so just did to check it. Then we have the Payne's Gray, which Payne's Gray is traditionally more on the bluer side, but the version from Renaissance is very much blue, so much that you could also call it probably indigo because it's a very dark blue. It is tending on the point for me personally that it is getting too blue for me to be a Payne's Gray. PB29 ultramarine blue, PBK9, so there we have the genuine ivory black, PBK11, which is Mars black or lunar black or what else you can call it. It is a black iron oxide, very beautiful granulating color, and a PB15 column 3 phthalo blue green shade. And then we have a Mars black. Like I said, this is a very, very beautiful, very strongly granulating black pigment, which I absolutely love, and I can personally highly, highly recommend to having one in your collection, especially if you're like granulation and like to mix your own super granulating mix, because this is definitely a very good pigment for mixing colors like that. If you're loving the dusk colors from Rembrandt or Van Gogh, for example, it is always one non-granulating pigment mixed with PBK11. So if you have a PBK11, you can easily mix those dust colors yourself, and you can even mix much more dust colors yourself, just because there are only 4, a green, a yellow, a pink, and a violet it is, I think. You could do a orange, you could do a blue, what else not? Different kinds of yellows, pinks. No, you get the thing I want to say, hopefully. So that is definitely something I highly recommend. For example, the lunar blue, which is a very beautiful granulating blue blackish color from Daniel Smith, is also just a mix between a blue pigment and the PBK11. So yeah, highly, highly recommend having one in your collection. Doesn't matter the brand. Some brands are, of course, more granulating than other brands, but yeah. So this is my gray-black collection. You see, it is a much smaller box. It is also not as high as the others, so not so much than in with other color groups. I will put it out, sort it by brand, and then I will be back in a second. So these are all my gray and black colors. We are starting with the Phoenix one, Lamp Black, PBK6. So yeah, never used it, but yeah, it is a standard PBK6 color, so nothing special. I know a lot of people say you don't need any blacks or grays in your collection. You can always use, for that case, to mix your own, and that colors like single pigment black looks dead and lifeless. I think, to be honest, it is up to yourself if you like using colors like that or not. Don't let yourself tell from anyone that you are not allowed to use any pre-made blacks or stuff like that, and that you have to mix them all yourself. Just do whatever you want. I personally use black or black mixtures a lot to, for example, darken some colors. It is also in a lot of super granulating color mixes from brands. There is some kind of, for example, PBK7, PBK6 or something like that. So in the past, I had also the problem that people in nearly every video I've seen told, don't use colors like that. And I was taken aback a long time from colors like that. But yeah, I came to the point that I said I do whatever I want, and I use colors like that. So yeah, don't let myself tell me from others that I'm not allowed to use them. I use as my personal blacks mostly neutral tints or paint sprays normally, but I have some, I have a lot of blacks like that, watercolor pen sets, because nearly every starter set you buy comes nowadays with a white and a black. And especially a lot of ivory black, which I personally don't like because it's a warm black and I prefer my blacks to be neutral or cold. And then I had the problem that I have tons of ivory black half pans or full pans in some sets, and I never used them. And I found out that even if I don't like the color on its own, I have found ways to use it as a mixing color. For example, if you have only, if you don't have a darker brown in your set and you have a PR 101 burnt sienna, if you mix it with, for example, an ivory black or any other single pigment black or multicolor black, which is dark enough, you can get a very beautiful burnt umber color. So yeah, I found my ways to work with colors like that. So here we have it, ivory black. PBK9, like I said, if you're vegan, avoid the color because it is made from burnt animal bones. Probably in the past they've used real ivory for that. I don't know. I have never looked up the history so far. Of course, like always, I will do somewhere in the future do a video about it, but yeah, definitely not a vegan color. Like I said, this is also one I have from which I have from a set where most of my ivory blacks come from, and I think I only ever bought one ivory black individually, and that was the Renaissance Intense one, just because they were so cheap on sale that I thought I've already found ways to use it. I take all the colors I can get. So yeah. Then we have Davies Gray from Van Gogh. That is a student grade paint, one of my absolute favorite student grades. There's also the range with the biggest range in student grade paints. And Davies Gray is a gray. Every brand do their own mixture. They look very different. I have, for example, the Shinhan PWC Davies Gray, which is a very greenish kind of gray. And this one here, I was very surprised because it is a very light gray and also a little bit granulating. And it looks like a very light stone gray. It is a very absolutely stunning color to use for coloring stones or stone walls, for example, from a castle or something. So I really, really love the color. And I loved it so much that they are only, I think, €3 the tube in Germany. That I thought, because the tubes are not so big, I will buy the same from the Rembrandt line, but I realized that the pigments are not exactly the same. They use a PBK 11, that's why it's granulating, PG7, so it is a phthalo green and black iron oxide, and a PBR 7, also a granulating pigment, a brown granulating brown iron oxide. And they don't have the green in the Rembrandt version. I will have to do somewhere in the future a video about Davies Gray and the history, and then we can compare them side by Beautiful color. Very surprised about it, but I absolutely love it. Then I have 2 colors from Rosa Gallery. I'm a, first the black green color. It is a PB15 Phthalo Blue, PBK7 and PG7 mix. So all the phalos. And the paint spray. PB15 column 1. Sorry, PB19. I'm not sure if that is correct, or I guess they probably mean PV19, so quinacridone rose, and PBK7. I think that is a printing error. PB19. I've never heard a brand using that pigment. Not even sure what kind of pigment it would be. So no, I know that in a lot of mixtures they use a PV19, especially in, oh gosh, in neutral tints. You often find it. So I don't think that there is a PB19 in it. I think it is a PV19. So 2 colors from White Nights. I have a lamp black. I think that was from the set I have bought. PBK7. I probably wouldn't have bought that individually. So yeah, that is from the set. What I have bought individually is this one. It's Veronezhskaya. I probably butchered it totally, so sorry about it. It's a PBK8. Yeah. So yeah, bought it, I think just because it was one of the newer colors they released in the last years, and PBK8 is not so often found. Then I have from the Horadam Naturals series the Green Slate from the mineral ones. It's a PBK19. I've bought it because the pigment is very unusual. You don't find it often. And it is a beautiful color, but I'm not so sure about the complete binding agent situation in the Horadam Naturals. They are a little bit, sometimes feel a little bit gooey. I haven't used it a lot so far. I have to use it more before I can say I really like or dislike the binding situation here. So those are vegan paints. Interesting probably for vegans especially. They have some really cool choices in pigments here. They have a set of mineral-based colors like the Green Slate, and I have a plant-based one. Be aware that the plant-based one are all mediocre to very bad in light fastness. There are a lot of historical pigments in it. So Shinhan PWC, like I said, the Davis grain is more like a greenish kind of gray in here. We have PBK 31, so that is Parylene green. Then we have the PG 17, which is the chromium green oxide green, and the PW6 white. The funny thing is that when I've done my A3 size Studio Ghibli fan art, where I have a lot of characters from a lot of different movies in it, it was probably the first time I've used this one, because from the Chihiro movie where she have this striped shirt. She's wearing the shirt with the stripes. This is the exact color they've used in the movie, so it was super fitting for that. Yeah, but I haven't used this one a lot. It's a very greenish version of the color. And then I have, of course, a neutral tint, because that, like I said, it's one of my most used, or my most used black these days. They've sadly have a mixture which is not light fast, because the PBK 11, of course, is light fast. It's a black iron oxide. But the PB66 is a synthetic indigo, and this is not light fast. So a beautiful color, but not light fast. So yeah, definitely this version of neutral tint I wouldn't buy again. Then let's go to the rest of my Renaissance Intense tubes. Like I said, this is probably the only ivory black I've ever bought individually. I really like that they write it down, carbonized bones, for people who don't know that that is made of bones. And like I said, if you're vegan and it is important to you, I think that is nice that they wrote it down. Then lamp black, this is a PBK. The ivory black is the PBK 9, and here it is a PBK 7 carbon black. And then we have the mineral gray, which you can see it is a light, a little bit warmer kind of gray. And this is made of PW6, white, PG17, chromium oxide green, and PBK 7. Like I said, I don't normally like warmer blacks, but I do like lighter, warmer kind of grays, because they're awesome for stone. So yeah. Then a color I've bought a few months ago, and that is Ardoise Gray from Core. And I've bought it because I read about it, and it is a PBK 19, like the slate gray. It is a very beautiful, I think it also granulates a little bit, but I'm not sure at the moment. Is it a granulating color? I don't want to say anything wrong, so I'm not sure. But it is a very stunning gray color, and it is a very unusual pigment. You don't find it very often. So yeah, I definitely needed it in my collection. Haven't used it so far, other than swatching it once. Then from Rembrandt, also bought it at the same time I've bought the Core tube. So I haven't used those otherwise than swatching so far as well. That's why they are looking completely untouched. It's the Davies Gray. That's when I realized it is missing the green, which is in the Van Gogh version, but it is still a very beautiful color. And as we have the two iron oxide pigments, the brown and the black one, we do have a little bit of granulation in the color. Very beautiful stone gray color. I like it. And also I've bought the Spinel Gray, and this is a PBK 26, and that is definitely a super unusual pigment. You barely find any spinel gray or spinel black anywhere. I do have a spinel black from a handmade paint maker, which is the deepest black you can get in watercolor. It looks like a black hole. It reminded me a lot of these blackest black. It has a name. don't remember. But it remembered me a lot of that color. This is not a black. This is, like the name says, it's more of a gray. But it is a highly unusual pigment, and as a pigment nerd and collector, I do have to get it. So if you want something really special, PBK 26, not seen often. Very beautiful color. So then I have three colors from Holbein. This is from the set again, an ivory black, PBK 9, nothing special. Wouldn't buy it individually just because like I said, don't like the color itself so much. And then I have a Payne's Gray and a neutral tint. I've bought it a little bit over half a year ago. I haven't touched them so far, but I've seen swatches of both of them, and I thought those are very beautiful versions of Payne's Gray and neutral tint, so I wanted to buy it. The Payne's Gray is made from PBK 6, PB 15 and PR 122. PR 122 is quinacridone pink. So all of those pigments are light fast. And then we have the neutral tint, which is made of PBK 6, PB 15 and PB 19, which is a quinacridone rose. Also, all of them are light fast. Yeah, just read the katakana because I'm learning Japanese. I can read the katakana and hiragana, and sometimes it is really interesting how the words are written in Japanese because of the syllable system. It is very different. Payne's Gray, zum Beispiel, for example, for the Payne's Gray. So yeah, nice. I do like Holbein paints. Then of course I have a neutral tint from Mgram, because I heard in the past that it is such a beautiful version, and this is just a PV19 PG7 mix, to be honest, which is interesting because if you do mix those two pigments together, you're getting to a more of a kind of bluish color. So yeah, interesting. There's nothing else in it. It is a beautiful version, but as I store my sets all the time in all different versions, depending on what fits best in the drawers or in my box I have here, it is Mgram paints are not so good for me personally in kind of storage because they are dripping all over the place. But the colors itself are beautiful. Then I have also a Payne's Gray and a neutral tint from My Merry Blue. The neutral tint is made from PBK 26. So we're having the same pigment here as in the spinal gray. That is why I've bought this one. I've heard that it is a PBK 26, and yeah, it is a stunning color. Do like it a lot. So that's probably the only single pigment neutral tint I know. Normally it's always a mixture. And then we have the Payne's Gray, which is yeah, I have absolutely no clue. Indaco Sintetico Watt Blue 1. What do they mean with that? I have no clue at all. Never heard of it. So if someone of you have any kind of information about it, please let me know. Probably also the only single pigment paint spray I know. What is this? I don't know. It's a beautiful color, but yeah, no clue. Then from the Supervision colors from their Primatech kind of line again, we have the Shawl color. So Shawl, I did have to look it up because I never heard of the name, to be honest. And it is a mineral. In German it's called Shawl. And it is some kind of blackish kind of mineral. It is part of the tourmaline mineral group. So yeah, probably like a black tourmaline, something like that. So yeah, beautiful color. I think it granulates, if I remember correctly. And then we have some colors from Daniel Smith. First, the Lamp Black was one of my first tubes I ever bought. That was before I heard don't use black. They're in my set for years, nearly untouched. It's a standard PBK 6, nothing special. You can see, depending on how old the tube is, I haven't used a lot of it just because, like I said, a lot of years I didn't dare to use it because some people tell you if I use pre-made blacks or single pigment blacks like that, you are not a good artist. You have to do it by yourself. So yeah, which is stupid. Use whatever you want. It doesn't make you a good or bad artist if you're mixing all of your colors or not. Then of course I have a neutral tint, which I do like very much. The neutral tint is made from PBK 6, PB19 and PB15, so it is a light fast version. And definitely if you are having blackish kind of mixtures, most black mixtures are paint sprays or neutral tints or neutral blacks. Definitely always check the pigments from the brand you're using, because I have versions from White Nights or Rosa Gallery, for example, which contains non-light fast pigments in it. Or I think the one we've looked up was the Renaissance Intense. So there are brands using non-light fast pigments in those kind of mixtures. And that is definitely something that can be important if you want to hang up your artwork or sell it or what else, where light fastness is important. So if you're using blacks, it doesn't matter the name, which is not a single pigment black, but a mixture, do check the pigments if light fastness is important. So, and then I have the Paints Gray, Blue Gray. They do have a Paints Gray and a Paints Blue Gray, which is more on the bluer side. The Paints Gray is more on a non-bluish side. Schminke does the same. They have a blue and a non-blue version. And this is made from PB60, Indanthrene Blue, and PBK 6, which is, of course, a very easy mixture to do yourself if you have a black and an Indanthrene Blue in your mixture. But this is also a tube I've bought so many years ago where I didn't have any clue about pigments. And yeah, I'm at the point I was more into those bluish kind of blacks. I'm more nowadays tend towards the neutral tint, so more on the neutral kind of blacks, not so much to the bluish. So yeah, of course I would use it, but or I do use it, but probably when I've used up most of my very bluish Payne's Grays, at the moment at least, I'm not so much into them, so I wouldn't probably buy those again. But that is just a personal preference and has nothing to do with quality or so. Then I have a Lunar Black. That one I've bought not so much ago, I think a year or two probably. This is one of many names. Black iron oxide comes in Lunar Black, Mars Black, something like that. Some companies do name it differently than black iron oxide. The Daniel Smith version is definitely one of the most granulating ones. That's the reason why I've bought it. It is PBK 11. Roman Schmal also offers the pigment in 3 different versions, in a mildly granulating, medium granulating, and a very strongly granulating version. I haven't bought them so far. I have them on my wish list for a long time. But yeah, I do love these versions very much because it is so strongly granulating. So, like I said, it is definitely a must-have color for me and for everyone who likes granulation and likes color mixing, color separation, or super granulation color mixes. Then I have the Bloodstone Genuine. This is a color I didn't know where to put it best because it is also called Genuine Iron Red or Iron Stone Red in the German translation. It is not completely black. It is more on a reddish version of black, but it is nearly blackish. It is an absolute stunning color and I do love it much. It is a very, very unique shade, color shade. It is very hard to describe, but I do love it. It is, of course, from the Primatech line, so it is a more expensive color, but yeah, very, very well loved. Then my 2 colors from Micello Mission Gold, the Ivory Black, nearly used half of the tube already. This is also from the set. It's also, funnily, this, and we had, what was it? I think the Renaissance ones. The Ivory Black, it is not a genuine Ivory Black. So vegans, be aware, you can use this Ivory Black because it's a PBK 7. And all those carbon blacks, the 6, 7, I think the 8 as well, but I'm not sure. These carbon kind of blacks mostly are done or made from burned plants. That is at least the information I have read in a lot of pages, depending on pigments. So those should be good to use vegan-wise. So, and the last, and this is a very special color. It is Cobalt Black. I will put a link in the description box below to my video, depending Cobalt Yellow and Black, because I put it in one video. And this is, you do know that I love cobalts. I would have more Cobalt Blacks if more brands would offer a Cobalt Black. This is the only brand I know offering Cobalt Black. And normally cobalts are a very, very expensive pigment. But funnily, the Lunar Black from Daniel Smith is more expensive than the Cobalt Black from Micello Mission Gold. So it is a very beautiful, very good granulating black. It is a very good alternative to black iron oxide. And depending on where you live, this could be cheaper as well. But of course, cobalts are toxic pigments, so that is something to be aware of. The black iron oxide is non-toxic. This is a PBK 27. It is a highly unusual pigment. You won't find it often. Like I said, this is the only commercial brand offering a cobalt black. You can probably buy it from some handmade artisans, watercolor paints, but yeah, that's the only one I have, and I absolutely love it, and I can highly recommend it, especially for pigment nerds and pigment collectors, because you probably won't find it any otherwise. So yeah, those were all the colors for today. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I hope that it was interesting and helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching it, and yeah, a thumbs up or a follow is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for those, because it really, really helps me in the channel. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. Bye bye.